I told Lucas not to invite his boss to his birthday. He smiled like I'd offered him a paper crown from a kid's meal and said I was being insecure. That was Saturday morning. By Saturday night, his boss was crying in my foyer. Somebody knocked over the spinach artichoke dip, and 2 hours later, an attorney sent me a very polite email asking if we could talk. People keep asking what I did. The funny part, I barely started. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. If you drive through Maple Glen around 6 in the evening, you'll think you found some perfect catalog street where nothing bad happens and nobody sweats. White trim, fresh mulch, lawns cut at the same height, like someone passed out rulers. Every driveway has the same black mailbox with a little brass number, because the HOA says it creates visual unity, which is neighbor code for do what we say or we'll send emails. The women walk around with big insulated cups, like we're all in a commercial about hydration and work-life balance. Men stand in pairs near open garages and pretend to be experts on power tools they only use twice a year. On paper, we fit the ad. I'm Nora Bennett, 29, nurse in post-op recovery at St. Clair Ambulatory. I help people wake up, get stable, not panic, not pull out their own IVs. I bring down fear with a calm voice and graham crackers. I'm good at it. I like being trusted, and I like the part where I can watch a person's breathing and tell if something's wrong before the monitor does. Lucas is the tech husband everyone here thinks you're supposed to have if you're under 40 and over medium cute. IT consultant, which sounds important even if nobody knows what he actually does. If you ask him, he'll tell you about client infrastructure and partner track and scalability, and you'll nod like you get it, because he says it in that tone that dares you to admit you don't. He dresses clean. He keeps his beard trimmed with this precision that says, I'm relaxed, but also, I take mirror selfies when you're not home. From far away, we look good. We look like stable money. People in Maple Glen like stable money. Up close, we are not fine. There were signs. There are always signs. People act like betrayal jumps out of a closet one day in a trench coat and shouts, surprise, but no. It starts quiet. It starts with rhythm changes. Lucas used to be a morning disaster. Not dramatic, just slow. He'd shuffle into the kitchen like a haunted sea creature, hair sticking up, eyes at half power, mumbling something about 5 more minutes, even though he was already vertical. If a fire alarm ever went off at 6 a.m., I'd honestly be the one dragging him to safety because he'd still be arguing with gravity. Then last month he started getting up early. Gotta hit the gym before calls, he said, casual, like this was an old habit. He even stretched his arms overhead, like a guy in a sports commercial. You hate the gym, I said, pouring coffee. You tried one yoga class and swore your spine made a popping noise. I'm turning it around, he said. Veronica says health is investment. She's up at 5 every day, no excuses. She says performance is energy management. That was the first time he said her name like that. Veronica. His boss, Veronica says. Veronica thinks. Veronica believes in me. I should have paid more attention right there, but I'm not an action movie heroine with dramatic strings playing in the background. I'm a nurse who'd been on back-to-back 12-hour shifts. At 6 in the morning, I barely had the will to argue with the toaster. After that, everything started tilting. He took more client dinners. He started taking calls on mute in the hallway instead of at the dining table. He started showering before quick site visits, like he had to be at peak freshness to discuss server storage with middle-aged men in khakis. And he got careful with his phone. That's the one that stuck under my skin. When I met Lucas, his phone was a community property situation. We shared Spotify, shared grocery lists, shared dumb memes. He'd fall asleep on the couch with his phone face up on his chest, like a sunbathing squirrel. If I moved it so it didn't fall, he never even woke. Then, about 3 weeks ago, he started keeping the screen face down. He started taking it with him, even for 3-minute bathroom trips. When it buzzed, he'd check it fast, then clear the banner. Again, I am trained to read vitals. Pulse, color, pacing of speech, which side of the bed someone suddenly chooses. You do my job long enough, and you get fluent in tiny changes. Lucas didn't have to tell me anything out loud. His hands told me. His phone told me. His Aunt Evelyn told me too, by accident. Evelyn showed up that Saturday morning in full Evelyn mode. Meaning, she rang the bell twice, then let herself in without waiting, because family doesn't need to knock. She smelled like department store perfume and hard opinion. She's 57, still wears her hair in that salon blonde helmet style that doesn't exist in nature, and walks around Maple Glen like she co-wrote the HOA bylaws. She also talks to me like Lucas adopted me from a yard sale. "Knock next time," I told her, wiping crumbs off the counter. I could have been undressed. "You're married," she said, like that explained the entire universe. Then she looked around the kitchen like she was inspecting an Airbnb she didn't want to pay for. "You're not ready yet. People will start arriving at 6. You know Veronica's coming. You don't want to look sloppy in front of her. She's sophisticated." "Good morning to you too, Evelyn," I said. "Coffee?" "She doesn't do regular coffee," Lucas said, coming in from the garage. He kissed Evelyn on the cheek, then grabbed the fancy French press like I don't know how to use it. "She likes that oat thing with cinnamon." "She?" I asked. "Veronica," Evelyn said, like obviously. Lucas said she's giving him guidance. She believes in him. She says he's leadership material, and she's making sure he's considered for partner track early. That is huge, Nora. Do you even understand how huge that is? I looked at Lucas. He would not look at me. That was new. "We appreciate her," I said. "We?" Evelyn laughed a little. "Oh, honey, you're lucky Lucas has someone like that in his corner." I smiled. I've been a nurse long enough to learn polite smiling is a scalpel when you use it right. You don't cut with volume. You cut with calm. "Am I?" said. Evelyn nodded like a judge stamping paperwork. "Of course. You know how competitive his field is. Men throw themselves at opportunity. Women too. The world is hungry, and nobody waits for polite wives anymore. If you want to keep a man like Lucas, you need to support his advancement." There it was, wrapped in satin and acid. If you want to keep a man like Lucas. I still hadn't said the thing yet, the thing about Veronica not coming to my house. I'd almost said it last night, when Lucas told me he wanted his boss at his birthday. Like that was natural. I'd had it in my mouth. Don't invite her. Don't disrespect me in my own kitchen like that. But I'd been tired, and he'd been sweet for once, and we were surrounded by grocery bags and paper lanterns, and I just didn't have it in me to start a whole scene over a suspicion. This morning, I had it in me. "Lucas," I said, setting my mug down, "don't invite your boss to your birthday party." He blinked. Then he laughed, not like I told a joke, like I told him pigeons write poetry. "Wow," he said, "insecure much?" There's something about a man calling you insecure that's almost holy. It's like a little bell ringing in your head. Ding, ding, ding. "This is projection, sweetheart," Evelyn gasped. "Nora." "What?" I said, still polite. "You can't talk to him like that in front of people." "There are no people," I said. "There's you. You don't count as people when you walk into my house without knocking and start giving me notes." That made her straighten. Lucas shot me a warning look like, please don't embarrass me. That look used to work on me. It didn't land today. "Veronica's not coming," I said. "It's a birthday party, Lucas. Friends and family. No bosses." "That's childish," he said. "She's my mentor. She's important to my career." "I don't care if she's the governor," I said. "No." He rolled his eyes at me, rolled his eyes. "This is exactly what I mean," he said to Evelyn, like we were doing a panel discussion, on problem wives and how to manage them. She gets territorial for no reason. For no reason. Oh, Lucas. I cleaned up my mug, wiped the perfectly clean counter, and smiled at Evelyn like I was about to sew her into a sofa cushion. "We'll see you at 6, I said. "Bring your famous dip." "It's spinach artichoke," she said automatically, because Evelyn loves having a signature dish more than she's ever loved any living mammal. She hesitated, still ruffled from me telling her she's not people. Then she tried to recover her comfort. "And Nora, wear something fitted. Veronica is very polished. You don't want to look tired. Those night shifts can really age a girl." When the door shut behind her, I exhaled slowly. Lucas leaned on the counter. "What was that?" "That," I said, "was me being honest." "That," he said, "was you making me look bad." "Lucas," I said, and this is where I finally stopped pretending, "are you seeing her?" His jaw actually dropped. He did a whole offended act, hand to his chest, eyebrows up. It would have been cute if I hadn't known him 8 years. "Wow," he said. "Wow. I mean, unbelievable. You really think I'm that guy?" "Yes," I thought. "Yes, Lucas. I think you are exactly that guy." Out loud I said, "So that's a no." He scoffed. "You're unbelievable, Nora." Then came the closer. Classic Lucas. He shook his head like I'd disappointed him. "Don't embarrass me tonight," he said, and walked out of my own kitchen. That's when I made my decision. See, here's the part everyone likes to skip in the retelling. Everyone loves the birthday party story. Everybody wants to jump right to the living room, and the screen, and the gasp. Nobody asks how I knew. They think I hacked his phone or hired some trenchcoat private eye. Please, I am a nurse with student loans and a Honda Civic. I do not have a secret agent budget. I have common sense and a dash cam. I put the dash cam in my car for work, not for Lucas. I work late some nights. Parking garages at 2 a.m. are not friendly places. It's normal for nurses to take precautions. Most of us carry a little light, keys between fingers, alert tone on speed dial. I bought a front and cabin camera for my car. It wasn't about Lucas at all. At first. Then he borrowed my car to go to client dinners. Twice. Because his car needed service. His car never needed service before. His car is his first love. He vacuums it like it's a high-end rug, and you should hear the way he talks to it. If I talked to him half as sweet as he talks to that car, we'd probably still be fake happy. So, when Lucas took my Civic for a meeting across town last Tuesday, I didn't say anything. I just checked the dashcam footage the next morning. That was the first time I watched the two of them in my car. I didn't see everything. The camera is wide angle, and the cabin lighting at night gets grainy. But I saw enough. Veronica in the passenger seat, hair perfect even in low light, this pale silk blouse that did not look like something you wear to a client dinner, leaning toward him. Lucas leaning back toward her, hand on her neck like he owned the moment. Then their faces met in the kind of way no one needs described. After that, Veronica said, clear as day, "You said she's basically done with you anyway." And Lucas said, "She is. It's just timing." I had to pause the video and walk away. Not because I was going to fall apart. I was past the point of fall apart. I paused because I wanted to laugh, and it was either laugh or snap the salt shaker in my hand. Basically done with me. The way he said it, like I was a lease ending in 30 days. I copied the clip. That's it. I didn't edit anything. I didn't fake anything. I didn't twist anything. I just moved a file from the Dashcam app to a folder called Taxes 2022 on my laptop, because Lucas would sooner chew gravel than open a folder about taxes. I sent a copy to my email, too, because I am not stupid. By Saturday, I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. Want to hear something else people don't get about revenge? It is not screaming. It's not throwing plates. Revenge, real revenge, is posture. You have to hold steady. You have to smile like you're tasting frosting. You have to act soft so that other people lean in close and don't realize you're about to pull the rug. That's why I went to book club that afternoon with a store-bought lemon tart and a fresh blowout, and why I sat next to Alice like we were still friends. Alice and I used to be close. She lives 4 houses down, works part-time in real estate, full-time in neighborhood politics. She's one of those women who can lower her voice and make you feel like she's about to share something tender, and then 30 minutes later, everyone on the block knows what you said in confidence. She hugged me when I walked in. Her perfume was pricey and a little desperate. "You okay?" she whispered, like she cared. "Of course," I whispered back, like I believed her. We sat in Jillian's sunroom and pretended to talk about the thriller we were supposed to read this month. Really, everyone wanted to talk about Lucas's party. People in Maple Glen act like they are above gossip. We don't traffic in that. We're adults. And then they practically vibrate with excitement the second there's a whiff of real scandal. "I heard his boss might come," Jillian said, pouring white wine into stemless glasses like we were the final panel of a magazine ad. "What's her name again?" "Veronica," Alice said, and stretched it out like velvet. "She's gorgeous. She looks like one of those women who does Pilates and knows which fork to use in every restaurant. She's older, right, Nora?" "Older than Lucas," I said. "Wow," Jillian said, eyes wide. Then she tried to look sympathetic. "That must be intimidating for you." I smiled. "Why would that be intimidating for me?" Alice leaned in. "No offense, but if I had someone like that in my husband's orbit, I'd be nervous." "Why?" I said. Alice blinked. "You know, she's powerful. She could take him away." I almost laughed again, right there with the lemon tart in my lap. Take him away, like Lucas is a purse someone can snatch off my arm. "He's not a handbag," I said. The room got quiet. You could feel it. That tiny air shift when you say a thing people weren't ready for. 3 sets of eyes flicked between each other, like they were trading index cards under the table. Jillian cleared her throat. "We're just saying," she said, "you have to protect what's yours." "I will," I said, and took a sip of wine. When I walked back home, Maple Glen felt different. It looked the same. Sprinklers misting the sidewalks. A kid 2 streets over practicing trumpet. The sweet grill smell from Jason's yard. But under it, everything hummed. Not panic, more like voltage. I could feel all the little wires between houses. Who talks to who? Who owes who? Who pretends to like who? I'd lived here 3 years and never really saw it like a map before. Now it was lit up like a hospital monitor. By 5:30, I had the whole slideshow done. Lucas thought he was getting a memory reel, his words, for his birthday. He thought it was going to be proposal photos, wedding photos, honeymoon, first house, all that greatest hit stuff you play to prove you're still in love. I gave him all that. I wanted a slow build. I started with the cute vacation shots, his arm around me on a beach, our first apartment with boxes still stacked, him pretending to hold up the Christmas tree like he was Santa's backup. I even put in that horrible selfie from our 2nd anniversary, where his hair looked like a Dallas news anchor and my eyes were half shut. I wanted it sweet. I wanted the room warm. I wanted everyone relaxed. And then, 48 photos in, after the wedding cake and the first home shot and the staged pumpkin patch pic Evelyn forces every couple to take for her seasonal collage, I dropped in the video from the dash cam. No edits, no voiceover. Just Lucas and Veronica in my car, faces way too close. Veronica saying, "You said she's basically done with you anyway," like I'm a piece of furniture he's planning to put out by the curb. I watched it twice alone, sitting on the floor in front of the TV before guests arrived. The living room was quiet. Our string lights were already on, casting this warm gold wash over everything. It almost looked soft. Safe. It wasn't. It was a stage. I sat there with the remote in my hand and thought about the first year I knew Lucas. He used to bring me breakfast sandwiches after my night shifts and sit in the hospital parking lot with me, and listened to me complain about rude surgeons. He once told me, "You save lives, I just reset routers." And he sounded honestly humbled by that. He used to brag to his friends that I was the strongest person he'd ever met. When did that turn into rolling his eyes and telling people I'm insecure? I don't think there's some magic date where people turn. I think it's slow, like a dimmer knob. And if you're not watching, you don't notice how dark it's gotten until you're sitting in it. At 6:10, the doorbell rang. Guests started drifting in with store cupcakes and grocery flowers dressed up in tissue paper. Evelyn walked in like she owned the place, carrying her spinach artichoke dip like a trophy. Jason followed with a case of craft beer and a grin that said he thought he was part of the inner circle. Alice floated in wearing a dress a little too tight to claim innocence, holding a fancy candle as a present and pretending it wasn't a gift for herself. And then, 10 minutes later, even though I had said no, Veronica appeared in my doorway in a cream blouse, and sleek black pants like this was a corporate mixer and not my husband's birthday in my house. Lucas went to meet her at the door. His hand went automatically to her lower back, guiding her in. People noticed. Of course they noticed. They always notice. They just pretend they don't until someone else gives them permission to react. I stood by the kitchen island, poured Veronica a glass of the good Sauvignon Blanc, and said, loud enough for the nearest 3 guests to hear, "Veronica, I feel like I already know you. Lucas talks about you constantly." Her smile flickered. Just a flash. But I saw it. "Oh," I thought, "you're worried already." Good. By 7:30, everyone was in the living room. Evelyn turned down the music and clapped her hands like she was the cruise director. "Everyone," she said, "let's look at the little movie Nora made for Lucas. She's worked so hard. Isn't she thoughtful?" I sat on the arm of the love seat, remote in my hand. Lucas sat in his favorite chair, the one angled just so toward the TV, like this was his throne. Veronica stood near the door, pretending to check something on her phone, but really just making sure she had a path to leave if she had to. Alice positioned herself at Lucas's 9 o'clock spot, like she'd practiced it in a mirror. Jason leaned against the doorway with his arms crossed. Half the block was packed into our living room, plates balanced on knees, eyes bright. I hit play. Cue soft music, wedding photos, honeymoon photos, all our sweet moments. Evelyn did running commentary like she was narrating a wildlife show. That was the bed and breakfast in Vermont. They gave them complimentary champagne at check-in. Alice fake sighed and said, "You two are such couple goals." Lucas smirked like he'd personally invented romance. And then the screen changed. My car interior filled the TV. The shot was angled from the rear-view area, slightly fisheye. You could see Lucas in the driver's seat at night, Veronica in the passenger seat, leaning in. No music now, just cabin audio. Veronica's voice filled the room. "You said she's basically done with you anyway." Then Lucas's voice. "She is. It's just timing." The room stopped, and I mean stopped. Forks hung in the air. Someone's wine glass froze halfway to their mouth. Alice's smile cracked. Jason's eyebrows went up to his hairline. Evelyn made a tiny sound in her throat, like a stunned cough. Lucas turned toward me so fast his chair actually scraped. Veronica stood there for a single second like a deer on a highway, then spun and walked straight for the door. "Nora," Lucas said low. "What is this?" I looked at him. I was very calm. "That's my car," I said. And right then, across the room on the counter, my phone buzzed. New email. Subject line preview. Regarding conduct concerns, request to speak privately. I didn't open it. I didn't have to. I already knew. Sometimes karma just needs a nudge. After the party started melting down, after Veronica ran out of my house, holding her purse like it was a flotation device, after Evelyn gasped, "Nora!" like I had marched a marching band through Sunday service, after Jason whispered, "That was harsh," and Alice started trying to comfort Lucas with her hand on his arm, like she was auditioning for supportive second wife, People trickled out. Nobody said goodbye to me. They left like they'd witnessed something illegal and didn't want their names on a list. Maple Glen pretends it's classy, but this place lives on mess like ivy lives on brick. By tomorrow morning, everyone on our street would know the clip. By lunch, everyone in the next development over would have heard something about Lucas and his boss from someone who was there. By Monday, someone would accidentally replay my video at pickleball. I didn't even have to send it anywhere yet. That's the thing about clean neighborhoods with matching mailboxes. The gossip runs on solar. Lucas waited until the last neighbor left and then came into the kitchen and shut the door like we had kids, and he didn't want them to hear. We don't have kids. We have a mortgage and a ceramic knife set from Williams-Sonoma and a pile of wedding gifts we never used, but no kids. "What the hell was that?" he said. He said it low, like he thought keeping his voice down would make him sound controlled instead of cornered. I was wiping spinach artichoke dip off the counter. It had gone over during the moment Veronica made for the exit and shouldered past a side table. The bowl flipped and splattered across the granite like a vegetable crime scene. Evelyn almost cried over that. Spinach artichoke is her legacy. "That," I said, "was honesty." "That was you wrecking my career," he said. I set the cloth down and looked at him. He wasn't even talking about us. Not, "Why would you do that to me in front of my aunt?" Not, "How long have you known?" Not, "I'm sorry." Career. Look at that. "Your career," I said. "Yes," he snapped. "Do you understand what you just did? Do you even have a clue? That was Veronica in front of half the neighborhood. Half those people work in circles that feed into our client list. You basically did corporate sabotage in our living room." "No," I said. "I pressed play." "This is not funny, Nora." "I didn't say it was funny," I said. "But I'll be honest, I found parts of it very satisfying." His mouth opened, shut. He raked his hand through his hair. "That's his tell. Lucas only does that when he's nervous. Normally he touches his hair like it's a show dog and he's the trainer. When he rakes, he's rattled." "You blindsided me," he said. "Oh, sweetie," I said, and I kept my voice soft, which made him angrier. "You have been living in the land of blindsides for a while." "This is insane," he said. "I can't believe you would humiliate me like that in front of everyone I know." "You're right," I said. "That was rude of me. Bringing Veronica into my house would have been way more respectful." His eyes flashed. "She's my boss." "She was in my car," I said, "with her hands on you like you were her hobby. And in case you forgot, my car is registered to me. Dashcam included, so we can talk about respect if you want, but I feel like that part landed, visually." "It wasn't like that," he said. I stared at him. She said, "You said she's basically done with you anyway." He swallowed. "You answered, she is. It's just timing." He crossed his arms, like that would keep anything from leaking out. "You don't get it," he said. "I get it plenty," I said. "No," he said, "you don't, because you don't live in my world, Nora. The politics at my firm are, you don't understand. You go in, you clock in, you do your care routine, you clock out. You don't deal with that partner track stuff. You don't get leveraged the same way." I just looked at him. I said nothing. I let the sentence sit there in the kitchen, between the fridge humming and the last of the party music still playing low in the other room. "You're, in case you missed the translation, you're just a nurse." He realized what he'd said half a beat too late. I watched the awareness move across his face slow, like a dimmer slide. He tried to fix it. "I mean," he said quickly, hands up. "Your job matters. Obviously, you help people. It's great. But what I'm saying is my situation is complicated. There's positioning involved. There's optics. I have to look like someone they can trust. Veronica was helping me with that. You going nuclear like that? You just made me look like some soap opera clown who can't control his house." "Soap opera clown. Nice." "So your concern," I said carefully, "is that I made you look unprofessional in front of Veronica." "In front of everybody," he said. "God, Jason was there. Jason reports to Mark. You know Mark and Veronica work directly together on bids. This is going to spread. It's going to get back to management. It's going to sound like harassment, like I harassed her. I almost laughed. Did you? No, he said instantly, angry. Of course not. She's your boss, I said. Not like that, he said. I think HR is going to feel strongly about what like that means, I said. I think your friend Jason is going to feel strongly too, considering he's been covering for you for weeks. Lucas's head snapped toward me. What? I shrugged. Please, Jason is about as smooth as a gravel driveway. You think I didn't notice you suddenly helping him with his route tour 3 nights a week? I work 12-hour shifts. I'm not an idiot. Wow, he said, scowling. You've been keeping notes on me like I'm a patient. I'm a nurse, I said. We chart. He made a frustrated noise in his throat and pushed away from the counter. I can't do this with you right now. I have to get ahead of this. I have to talk to Veronica before she talks to HR. If she makes this into me pursuing her, I'm done. Do you get that? Done. No more partner track. No more buy-in. I worked for years for that shot, Nora. He was pacing now, running a groove in our kitchen tile like an animal in a too small space. That was new too. Lucas never paced before. He always did calm leadership posture. He practiced it. He once watched a whole YouTube video about how to stand in a room so people listen. Now he couldn't stay still. I leaned back on the counter, crossed my arms, and watched him melt down over his title. He had not asked how I was even once. Stop, I said finally. He spun. What? Stop, I repeated. Stop walking around like a Roomba. You're going to leave a mark on the grout. He stared at me, chest moving fast. That's how I knew. In spite of all his talk and his "you don't understand" and his fake outrage, he was scared. Not for me, not for us, for himself, for his ladder. I felt calm in a way that probably should have worried me. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't shouting. I didn't feel lightheaded or wrecked. I felt sharp, bright, focused. That's the part nobody warns you about. When someone takes you apart piece by piece and you finally see it, the anger doesn't always come like a fireball. Sometimes it comes like a lens. Everything gets clear. Here's how this is going to go, I said. He let out this short laugh, like I'd told him I was taking over his calendar. Excuse me. You're going to sleep in the guest room, I said. His face twisted. Are you serious right now? You're going to sleep in the guest room, I repeated. You're going to leave my name off whatever story you decide to tell Veronica and HR. You're going to tell Evelyn to use the front door and not walk in here like she's the health inspector. And you're going to understand that as of 5 minutes ago, everything in this house is mine to decide who sees. You can't keep me out of my own house, he said, voice getting louder. I tilted my head. Say that sentence again, slower. Think about property law in this state and our joint mortgage. He blinked. I smiled. There you go. He ran his hand through his hair again. You're being petty. This is petty. Petty, I said, is me switching your oat creamer with regular. Petty is me telling your gym coach that you called his class aggressive stretching for suburban mums. I never said that, he said too fast. Yes, you did, I said. You said it last week, right here in this kitchen, while eating leftover pad thai and asking if your triceps looked more cut. I almost choked. He started to protest. I lifted my hand. Real talk, Lucas, I said, and my voice went quiet. He froze, because he knows that voice. It's the same one I use at work when somebody tries to take out their stitches early. You don't get to stand in my kitchen and call me insecure for noticing you sneaking around with your boss in my car. You don't get to act like I should have kept quiet so your career fairy tale stayed shiny. You lied to me. You lied to her. You lied to your aunt. You lied to Jason. You lied to basically everyone whose name you said tonight. That wasn't me. That was you. He didn't say anything. You wrecked your career, I said. My part was just letting the room watch. He stared at me a long time. Then he said, "You're going to regret this," and walked down the hall. Not "I'm sorry," not "I'll fix this," not "let's talk." "You're going to regret this." Good, I thought. Stay on script. He slammed the guest room door. I leaned both hands on the counter and let the silence settle. The house felt different instantly, like the walls had shifted 2 inches to the left. I could smell cold appetizers, perfume, cologne, spilled dip, that candle Alice brought that claimed to smell like winter linen, but actually smelled like hotel lobby. My phone was still sitting by the sink, face up. The email preview glowed. Regarding conduct concerns, request to speak privately. I took a picture of the subject line with my own phone, just in case Lucas got cute and tried to wipe anything later. Then I sent that picture to my personal email too. People act like proof is hard to get. It's not, usually. People hand you proof when they think you're harmless. After a while, I rinsed the plates, stacked the cups, and packed up half a tray of mini quiches to bring to work in the morning. Just because your marriage is on fire doesn't mean your coworkers can't enjoy warm food at 5 a.m. I slept on our bed because I paid for half that mattress, and because no way was I giving him the good pillows. I thought maybe I'd lie awake turning over every second of the last year, like laundry in a dryer, but I didn't. My brain was busy, but it wasn't racing. It was planning, organizing, sorting piles. I've had that feeling before during a code in recovery. The moment you stop panicking and start assigning tasks. You hold pressure. You call for anesthesia. You chart. You stay with me and don't pass out. A tiny command center opens in your head and you run it. That's how it felt now. At 4:30 in the morning, my eyes opened and I knew exactly what I was going to do next. People say revenge is messy. It is, if you swing first and think later. I wasn't going to swing. I was going to cut ground from under Lucas's feet, one clean slice at a time, until he had nowhere to stand. Step 1, information. I got up, pulled on sweats, and went out to the driveway. It was still dark, but Maple Glen at 4:30 a.m. is safer than most grocery stores at noon. Half the houses have those motion lights that pop on like stage lights if a squirrel sneezes, so if anything weird happens, somebody's ring cam catches it, and it ends up on the neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, "Does anyone know this person?" and 3 dozen comments that are mostly thinly veiled, bragging about who has better lighting. My Civic sat in the driveway, still slightly dusty from last week's rain. Lucas's car, his precious, glossy, beloved car, sat next to it in the garage, because of course he gets the covered spot. I opened my door, reached in, and pulled the micro SD card from the dash cam slot. I'd already copied the video, but now that Lucas knew, I wasn't leaving anything portable for him to accidentally misplace. When I turned back toward the garage, I saw something else. Lucas had left his gym bag in the trunk of his own car. I could see the zipper half open through the little window in the garage door. I could also see a flash of cream fabric inside that bag that did not belong to Lucas. Veronica carries this cream silk blouse style, loose at the collar, expensive looking. I'd seen it. I'd been staring right at it in my living room 3 hours ago. Well, I thought, isn't that helpful? I didn't open his car. I didn't need to. I just took a picture through the garage glass, angled so you could see the bag, the cream fabric, and the license plate in one frame. I stepped back, checked the photo. Good. Clear. Timestamp in the corner. Thank you, Little Brain Command Center. Step 2. Financials. By 6 a.m., I'd showered, tied my hair back, and driven to the bank before my shift. My name is on the primary checking. My paychecks go into that account. We have a joint card for groceries and house expenses, and then Lucas has his separate card for business entertaining, which is what he calls taking clients out for drinks and pretending it's not just happy hour with invoices. Here's a fun thing about finances in marriage. If your name's on it, and you can show regular deposits from your work into it, You can move that money pretty fast. I sat across from a woman in a navy blazer who had a nameplate that said, Carrie. She had that soothing customer service voice that sounds like she narrates spa commercials in her spare time. I told her I wanted to open a separate account under just my name and move a set amount from the joint into it. I smiled. I was polite. I said phrases like, Lucas and I are reorganizing logistics. Carrie smiled like she'd heard that sentence before. Of course, she said. We can definitely arrange that for you. And, I said, still very nice, I'd like to remove the secondary cardholder access on this card here. Just temporarily. We're reorganizing spending, Carrie typed. That won't be a problem. I walked out with a new account, a new card, and an alert set that would message me on any charges above $50 on the old joint card. I wasn't cutting him off out of spite. Well, not only out of spite. I was cutting him off because step 3 was going to make him desperate, and desperate men start swiping plastic like the machine is their last friend. Step 3. Watch. After my shift, I parked across from the Ridge Grill. The Ridge is one of those upscale casual places with Edison bulbs, reclaimed wood tables, and $10 cocktails named things like the Maple Glen signature. It's also where Lucas says he has client dinners, which is interesting because I've never once seen an actual client of his there. I've only ever seen Lucas, Jason, and occasionally a woman with perfect hair sitting a little too close for team strategy. It was early afternoon, slow hour. I sat in my car with my coffee and watched the entrance. I told myself I was only doing it to confirm what I already knew. But the truth is, I wanted to see his face now that his little world had cracked. I wanted to see if he still walked like he owned the block, or if he'd learned how to look over his shoulder. At 2:15, Lucas pulled in. He didn't park in front. He parked in back by the dumpsters, which told me 2 things. 1, he knew this meeting wasn't for clients. 2, he was already scared of being seen. He got out and checked his phone 3 times before the car door even clicked shut. 2 minutes later, Veronica pulled up in her SUV. She looked different than she had last night. Not polished. Her hair was tied back too tight, and she wasn't wearing the cream blouse. She was wearing a black blazer and jeans like she'd grabbed whatever was clean and said, forget it. She stepped out fast, walked up to him faster. No hug, no smile, just straight business, eyes sharp. They stood near the back entrance of the Ridge, thinking the angle of the building hid them. It would have if I'd been sitting in front. I wasn't. I cracked my window just enough. Their voices carried. The parking lot at that hour was quiet, just a distant kitchen fan and clink noise from inside. You said you had this under control, Veronica hissed. I do, Lucas said. His voice had that defensive edge he uses when he knows he's lying and hopes you're too tired to press. I've got it. I'm going to talk to her. I'll calm her down. Calm her down, Veronica repeated. She played that clip in front of a room full of people. Do you hear yourself? Your wife just created a problem I cannot afford. Do you understand me, Lucas? I cannot afford this. Oh, please, he said. They're just neighbors. They're nobody. HR doesn't care if they're nobodies, Veronica said. All HR cares about is supervisor, subordinate, inappropriate, and hostile. And guess what your wife just created real-time witnesses for? You told me you were basically done with her. You promised me. You said it was separation paperwork and logistics. It is, Lucas said. He reached for her arm. She yanked back like his touch burned. Do not touch me in public, she snapped. He looked stung. Ronnie. She cut him off with a sharp shake of her head. Don't. We're not doing that. Listen to me very carefully. If this turns into a compliance issue, they will cut me loose to save the firm's face. You get that, right? They will not protect me. And if I feel like I'm being pushed toward that cliff, I am not going alone. Lucas swallowed. What does that mean? It means, she said, voice low and precise, That if you make me the story, I will make you the story. You were not some helpless junior under pressure. You pursued me. You told me you were done with her. You told me you wanted a future with me. I have texts. I have messages. Do you want me to read them out loud right now? Because I will, Lucas, I will. He looked like he'd been slapped, which warmed a corner of me I didn't know I had. Veronica leaned in closer, not affectionate this time. More like she was issuing a contract. Fix your house, she said. Shut your wife down. Get ahead of this HR thing. Or we are both finished, and I promise you I am not going alone. She spun, got into her SUV, and pulled out hard enough to squeal her tires. Lucas stood there in the weak afternoon light, alone, phone in his hand, staring at the spot where her car had been, like he couldn't believe she'd just spoken to him like that. Like he was not the star of his own show anymore. Like he was the extra. And I sat in my car across the lot and felt it click, clean and satisfying. She wasn't protecting him. She was terrified for herself. He wasn't loved. He was leverage. He had traded me for career access, and she had traded him for image control, and now both trades were expiring at once. I pulled out my phone, aimed, and took 2 pictures through my windshield. Lucas alone in the back lot. Lucas staring at his phone. Lucas looking small. I didn't know exactly where I'd use those yet. I just knew I would. I rolled my window back up, set my cup in the holder, and watched him for one more breath. He paced. He ran his hand through his hair. He cursed at nobody. He had no idea I was 20 yards away, watching him scramble to save himself from the mess he made. I thought about something Evelyn said to me that morning. You're lucky Lucas has someone like that in his corner. I smiled, even though there was nobody in the car but me. Sure, Evelyn. I'm feeling lucky now. When I got home, I pulled into the driveway and sat there with the engine off for a long minute. Lucas's car was already back. He must have raced me here. He was inside, probably rehearsing whatever speech he thought would shut me down, the same way Veronica told him to. That made me almost laugh again. If Veronica thought she could send Lucas in here, like some corporate fire extinguisher, she didn't know me at all. The sky over Maple Glen was that warm, late afternoon color our real estate listing had called golden hour charm. Sprinklers ticked. Somewhere 2 houses over, somebody's wind chimes did their little polite melody. It all looked so normal, so calm. You'd never guess my marriage had just been turned inside out and nailed to the wall for all of Maple Glen to examine like a science fair poster. I put my head back against the seat and watched our front door. I thought about my house, my kitchen, my name on the mortgage, my name on the checking account, the ring on my finger that suddenly felt like a brand and not a promise. This was not going to be a quiet break and a polite lawyer, and we just grew apart. Lucas had made sure of that when he rolled his eyes and called me insecure. When he told Veronica I was basically over. When he acted like I was a rapper, he could throw away once he was done using what came inside. When he stood in my kitchen and said, I made him look like a clown. He made a stage. I was just learning how to use it. I got out of the car, locked it, and walked toward the front door. My keys felt solid and good in my hand. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't unsure. I wasn't begging. I was done asking, are you seeing her? I had the clip. I had the photos. I had the money moved. I had his boss on record panicking about HR. I had leverage now. I opened the door to my house and stepped inside. Lucas, I called, sweet as sugar. We need to talk. He was sitting at the dining table when I came in, the same table we'd bought second-hand from a couple who'd been downsizing, which is suburban code for getting divorced. Back then, we'd made jokes about it, how we'd never end up like that, how we were different. He'd run his hand across the wood grain and said, we'll make this our lucky table. I'd believed him. Now the table looked like a battlefield, half-eaten birthday cake, empty wine glasses, paper plates smeared with frosting. Lucas had his laptop open, but he wasn't typing. He was scrolling through something mindlessly. Maybe his work email, maybe his panic. His shirt was rumpled, the way it gets when he pulls at the collar during stress. "Hey," he said, cautious without looking up. "Hey," I said. "You home early?" "I worked from home today," he said, voice tight. "Lot going on." "That's one way to put it." He rubbed his temple. "Look, Nora, we need to stop this before it gets worse." "Stop what?" I said, setting my bag down. "This performance," he said. "You making me the villain, the neighborhood whispering, my boss threatening to go to HR." "Oh," I interrupted, pretending to remember something. "So she is threatening HR. Interesting, because I seem to recall you saying she was helping your career." He finally looked up. "You don't get it. She's not thinking straight. She's scared. I can fix it, but I need you not to make things worse." "Define worse," I said. "Posting that video," he said. "Sending it anywhere. You need to delete it. It's over now, Nora. You made your point." I smiled, slow. "You think this is about making a point?" His expression faltered. "You already embarrassed me in front of everyone. What more do you want?" "Embarrassment fades," I said. "Consequences don't." He sighed, ran both hands through his hair, and stood up. "You can't hold me hostage over a stupid mistake." "Stupid mistake," I repeated. Interesting phrase for something you repeated multiple times, in my car, at work, in texts. "I deleted those," he blurted, and then immediately regretted it. My eyebrows lifted. "Did you? How thorough of you. Almost like you knew they'd look bad." He hesitated. "You can't prove anything." I stepped closer. "Lucas, I don't need to prove anything. I don't even have to lift a finger. Veronica's already doing it for me. She's scared you'll drag her down, and scared people make noise. She'll sing before I ever open my mouth." His jaw tightened. "You're bluffing." I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, opened my photos, tapped the picture I'd taken earlier, the gym bag in his trunk, the cream fabric visible. I tilted it toward him. "She left something behind," I said. "That's her blouse, isn't it? The same one she wore to your party." His face drained of color. "You went through my car?" "No," I said. "I looked at it through the garage window. Calm down. But imagine what her husband would think if he saw this." "She's not married," he said automatically. "Ah," I said softly. "So you do know her personal details." He flinched like he'd been caught in a net. "You're twisting everything." I leaned on the table, close enough for him to see I wasn't bluffing. "I'm documenting. You documented too, remember? In my car. Cameras are fair." He pushed the laptop shut hard. "You're enjoying this?" "No," I said. "I'm ensuring accuracy." He walked toward the hallway, then turned back. "You're going to destroy both of us." "No," I said again, calm as glass. "I'm going to rebuild. You're just not invited." He opened his mouth, then closed it, then disappeared down the hall, muttering something under his breath about lawyers. Good, I thought. Get one. I already have mine bookmarked. That night, I sat in bed with my laptop open, a mug of tea cooling beside me, and my notebook in my lap. Nurses love notes. We live by them. Shift logs, patient summaries, details nobody else catches. I'd started a new one tonight, Lucas timeline. Every suspicious night, every client dinner, every sudden gym morning, dates, times, brief descriptions. I wasn't building a case for the court. I was building a map of habits, of lies, of patterns. I was learning the enemy terrain. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. "We need to talk, please." I didn't answer. Another came 30 seconds later. Unknown. "I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just want this to go away. Veronica." I stared at it for a full minute. She didn't sign her name, but the phrasing had her fingerprints all over it. Efficient, formal apology, wrapped in control. I could almost hear her voice. Calm, rehearsed, terrified underneath. I type back one sentence, then make it go away yourself. 3 dots blinked, then nothing. I shut my phone off. Tomorrow I'd start step 4. The fun part. Morning came clear and warm. I put on my scrubs, tied my hair up, and stopped by the coffee shop near the hospital. Maple Glen is small enough that gossip spreads faster than caffeine, and sure enough, the barista gave me that look. The one people use when they want to ask but pretend they're being polite. "Rough weekend?" she said carefully. "Could say that," I said. "New blend today." She nodded. "It's called House Secrets." I laughed. "Perfect." By noon, half the nurses in my unit had heard something. Alice had apparently been very busy since the party. I didn't mind. Let them talk. Let them paint me as the cold wife, or the crazy wife, or the clever wife. The truth was simpler. I was the wife who stopped pretending. On my lunch break, I checked my email. One new message from Veronica R. Enheim, senior partner. Subject: clarification regarding recent incident. I clicked. The body was 3 paragraphs of polished panic. How certain misunderstandings had occurred. How she wanted to ensure professional boundaries are fully understood. How she hoped I would consider the personal cost of sharing private materials. I smiled. She was begging without saying beg. I wrote back 2 words, understood completely. When I got home that evening, Lucas's car was gone. He'd texted earlier that he was staying at a hotel to think. That suited me fine. It gave me room. I used the quiet to plan step 5. See, Maple Glen has this unwritten hierarchy. The wives trade information like currency. If you want to take someone apart here, you don't need fists or flames. You need whispers. So I started whispering. I called Alice first, the queen of neighborhood updates. "Hey," I said casual. "You'll hear this soon anyway. Lucas and I are separating. Turns out he had an unprofessional friendship with his boss." She gasped in perfect delight disguised as sympathy. "Oh my God, Nora, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" "I'll live," I said. "It's just been a lot to process, especially since she was at his party." Her silence crackled. "That's who that was?" I smiled. "You didn't know? She was the one who left in tears." That's how it starts. You don't have to spread rumors here. You just drop context and let oxygen do the rest. By morning, everyone knew Lucas's boss had crossed lines and showed poor judgment. By the next afternoon, someone posted in the local Facebook group, "Anyone know why a corporate HR team visited the Ridge offices today?" I didn't answer. At 8 p.m., Lucas texted again. "Lucas, we need to meet. I'm losing control of this." Me. "Yes, you are." 10 minutes later, tires crunched on the driveway. He came inside looking wrecked, shirt untucked, eyes dark, holding his phone like it was a life raft. "They're investigating," he said. "Veronica's freaking out. She says you've ruined both of us." "Oh no," I said. "How tragic." He threw his hands up. "Stop. You got what you wanted. You proved your point. Just stop before this gets uglier." "Lucas," I said, standing, "this was me being kind. You lost your job, not your freedom. Veronica lost her title, not her safety. You both got to walk away breathing. Do you even realize how gentle I've been?" He looked at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. "You've changed," he said. "No," I said. "You just finally saw me clearly." He stepped closer, desperate now. "What do you want?" I leaned in, whispered, "To watch you start over the way I had to and from the bottom." He flinched. Then, almost laughably, his phone buzzed. He checked it, and his shoulders slumped. "She reported me," he said quietly. "Said I made advances. Said she tried to stop it." My heart should have raced. It didn't. I just felt the calm widen. "Well," I said, "maybe you'll have time to think after all." He stared at me like I'd dropped a bomb. "You planned this," he whispered. "No," I said. "You handed me the matches." And I walked past him, toward the front door. the same one Veronica had fled through days before. Behind me, I could hear him sink into a chair, muttering her name. I didn't look back. Outside, the night air was soft, quiet, suburban, perfect. A sprinkler ticked somewhere down the street. My neighbor's porch lights glowed like stage lamps. In the distance, I could almost hear the gossip starting to move again, like wind through leaves. And I smiled, small, sharp, steady. The show was just beginning. The storm rolled out by dawn, leaving the air sharp and washed clean, like the whole neighborhood had been hosed down for the next act. Maple Glen looked almost innocent again. Slick driveways, gleaming hedges, lawns drinking in puddles. But I could already feel the pulse of new activity underneath the calm. By the time I poured my first cup of coffee, the HOA thread had erupted. Linda W. Who sent that email last night? Is this some kind of warning? Alice R. I think it's about Lucas Bennett. Something happened with his job. Tom D. Let's keep the gossip off this chat. Evelyn S. I heard HR was involved. Scandal. I scrolled through the messages, sipping slowly. One of my favorite things about Maple Glen was that people pretended to hate gossip, while feeding it like a houseplant they couldn't live without. I didn't reply. Silence, I'd learned, was the most powerful tool in this place. It let people imagine. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Lucas. I hesitated before answering. What did you do? He demanded, voice hoarse. Good morning to you too, I said. Don't play dumb. My phone's been blowing up. Everyone in the neighborhood saw that photo. Then maybe you should have smiled, I said. He cursed under his breath, then paused. You've officially humiliated me. Are you satisfied? Almost, I said. Still one or two things left. This isn't a game, Nora. Really, I said, because it feels like I'm finally winning one. He exhaled sharply, then softened. You've made your point. You've destroyed everything. What's next? You burn the house down? Don't tempt me, I said, and hung up. I spent the morning at work pretending life was normal. My coworkers kept giving me that look, the blend of curiosity and concern they reserve for nurses who've been through public drama. I smiled through it, handed out meds, updated charts, but every time I glanced at my phone, new messages appeared. Alice, people are saying Lucas might sell the house. Is that true? HOA thread. Should we address personal conduct rules at the next meeting? Unknown number. We need to talk. That last one made me pause. The phrasing was polite, formal, not Lucas. Veronica. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity has always been my weakness. I texted back, where and when? She replied instantly, your place, noon. At exactly noon, a sleek grey sedan pulled into my driveway. Veronica stepped out, composed as ever, though her posture had lost that boardroom precision. Her hair was loose, her face bare. She looked human. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. What do you want? I asked. She exhaled, eyes darting past me into the house. To talk, please. I crossed my arms. You've got 3 minutes. She hesitated, then said, You've made your point. You're smart, methodical. You planned this. But it's gone far enough. Far enough, I repeated. You slept with my husband, showed up at my house, smiled in my face, and now you want to define boundaries. She swallowed. I didn't mean for it to happen. Of course not, I said. It just slipped, right? Nora, listen, she said, her voice trembling just slightly. I've already lost my job. My firm's reputation is damaged. HR might investigate harassment claims. I'm begging you, stop feeding the gossip, please. I didn't feed anything. I just showed people what was already there, I said. Her voice broke. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. You already gave me everything I needed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she glanced past me at Lucas's car in the driveway, still parked there, unmoving. He's not okay, she said quietly. That's not my concern. She looked at me like she was seeing a reflection she didn't want to believe in. You're enjoying this? No, I said. I'm remembering. Remembering what? How it feels to stop apologizing for other people's messes. I stepped closer, my voice low. And just so you understand, I'm not the type who forgives quietly. I like reminders, keeps people honest. Her expression hardened. You're cruel. No, I said. I'm thorough. She turned and walked back to her car, her heels splashing in a puddle. When she pulled out, her tires squealed slightly, an uncharacteristic loss of control. I watched her go, then went back inside, closed the door, and let out a slow breath. It was almost over. Almost. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing. Caller ID, Lucas. I let it ring, then ring again, then stop. A few seconds later, a text came through. Lucas. HR called. I'm suspended indefinitely. They're reviewing the evidence. Did you send them something? I stared at the message, then set the phone down. I didn't send anything. Maple Glen's gossip network had already done the heavy lifting. Half of Lucas's department lived within 3 miles of us. Someone at the party knew someone at the firm, and within 48 hours, the video had circulated quietly, like a whispered virus. Actions have momentum. Once they start, they don't stop, because you decide you've made your point. They roll, gathering friction until someone loses. I brushed my hair, put on scrubs, and stopped by the coffee shop near the hospital. Maple Glen is small enough that gossip spreads faster than caffeine. The barista gave me the usual look, the mix of curiosity and polite judgment. Rough weekend? She asked carefully. Could say that, I said. New blend today? She nodded. It's called House Secrets. I laughed. Perfect. By the time I got home, Lucas was waiting again. This time, he was pacing in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, his face tight with frustration. You met with her, he said flatly. Word travels fast, I replied. She told me, he said, you wanted to scare her. Did it work? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he dropped his duffel at the door. I'm leaving. I'll sign whatever papers you send. You've won. I nodded. I know. He looked around the house. The kitchen, the photos still on the wall, the living room that had hosted dinner parties and now felt like neutral territory. You always were the smarter one, he said quietly. Too bad you realized that late, I said. He walked toward the door, paused. You got what you wanted, Nora. Revenge. Congratulations. But someday you'll look around and realize there's nothing left but the ashes. I smiled. I don't need ashes, Lucas. I kept the house. He didn't respond. He just opened the door and left. Through the window, I watched him cross the lawn, get into his car, and drive off down the street lined with perfect trees. That should have been the ending. But life doesn't give clean credits. It gives aftermath. 10 minutes later, I heard a sharp crash outside. A sprinkler had burst, shooting water high into the air and soaking Lucas's car as he turned the corner too fast. For a moment, it looked like the street itself was washing him away. I laughed. Not maliciously, release. The world had handled the punctuation for me. By the afternoon, the neighborhood had shifted tone. Where there had once been polite smiles and restrained curiosity, there was fascination now. Jason, the so-called best friend, crossed the street when he saw me walking. Evelyn left a voicemail suggesting family counseling. Even my manager at work pulled me aside and said, "If you need time off, Nora, you can take it." I didn't. I didn't want time. I wanted motion. That evening, Lucas called again. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. He sounded exhausted. They let me go. Officially. Failure to disclose a conflict of interest. That's what they called it. I told you this would happen, I said. I have nowhere to go, he said quietly. No job. My credit cards are frozen. My reputation's trashed. You've taken everything. No, Lucas, I said. You gave it to me." He didn't speak for a while. When he did, his voice was barely above a whisper. "You win." "No," I said, voice steady. "You lose. There's a difference." He hung up. I stared at the phone screen. The silence was thick around me. It wasn't satisfaction, not entirely. It was clarity. The world was balanced again, and I had made it that way. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere distant, a storm building, fitting. I went for a drive. The neighborhood was still, the houses glowing from within like curated terrariums. On Maple Drive, I saw Alice's husband watering the lawn. He gave me a small wave. Sympathetic, performative. Everyone wanted to be seen being kind to the wronged woman, even if secretly terrified of being the next story. I drove past the ridge, its parking lot half empty, and down toward the office park where Lucas's firm had their headquarters. The building loomed in clean lines of glass and steel, cold and expensive looking. A single car sat near the back exit, a black sedan I recognized, Veronica's. She was sitting inside, motionless, light from her dashboard painting her face pale blue. For a second, I wondered if she saw me. She didn't. She just sat there, staring straight ahead, lips pressed together like she was holding in a scream she couldn't afford. I thought about rolling down my window, about saying something. Was it worth it? Did he? But I didn't. I just drove past, slow, watching her shrink in the rearview mirror. Some people break clean, some crack slow. I preferred slow. By evening, Maple Glen was quiet. I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, cicadas humming in the distance. A few cars passed, a few porch lights flicked off, and from somewhere down the block, I could hear Alice talking on her phone, whispering just loud enough for the next neighbor to hear. I smiled. Let them talk. Let them dissect every detail of what Nora did. Tomorrow they'd move on to someone else. They always do. But they'd remember me. The nurse with the perfect smile who smiled back, while setting her world on fire one polite conversation at a time. I took another sip of tea and looked out at the street. The calm before morning. The stillness before the next storm. The balance had shifted. The story was over. And for once, I didn't need an afterword. The storm rolled out by dawn, leaving the air sharp and washed clean, like the whole neighborhood had been hosed down for the next act. Maple Glen looked almost innocent again. Slick driveways, gleaming hedges, lawns drinking in puddles. But I could already feel the pulse of new activity underneath the calm. By the time I poured my first cup of coffee, the HOA thread had erupted. Linda W. Who sent that email last night? Is this some kind of warning? Alice R. I think it's about Lucas Bennett. Something happened with his job. Tom D. Let's keep the gossip off this chat. Evelyn S. I heard HR was involved. Scandal. I scrolled through the messages, sipping slowly. One of my favorite things about Maple Glen was that people pretended to hate gossip, while feeding it like a houseplant they couldn't live without. I didn't reply. Silence, I'd learned, was the most powerful tool in this place. It let people imagine. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Lucas. I hesitated before answering. What did you do? He demanded, voice hoarse. Good morning to you too, I said. Don't play dumb. My phone's been blowing up. Everyone in the neighborhood saw that photo. Then maybe you should have smiled, I said. He cursed under his breath, then paused. You've officially humiliated me. Are you satisfied? Almost, I said. Still 1 or 2 things left. This isn't a game, Nora. Really? I said, my tone smooth. Because it feels like I'm finally winning one. He exhaled sharply, then softened. You've made your point. You've destroyed everything. What's next? You burn the house down. Don't tempt me, I said, and hung up. I spent the morning at work pretending life was normal. My coworkers kept giving me that look, the blend of curiosity and concern they reserve for nurses who've been through public drama. I smiled through it, handed out meds, updated charts. But every time I glanced at my phone, new messages appeared. Alice, People are saying Lucas might sell the house. Is that true? HOA thread. Should we address personal conduct rules at the next meeting? Unknown number. We need to talk. That last one made me pause. The phrasing was polite, formal, not Lucas. Veronica. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity has always been my weakness. I texted back, "Where and when?" She replied instantly, "Your place, noon." At exactly noon, a sleek grey sedan pulled into my driveway. Veronica stepped out, composed as ever, though her posture had lost that boardroom precision. Her hair was loose, her face bare. She looked human. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "What do you want?" I asked. She exhaled, eyes darting past me into the house. "To talk, please." I crossed my arms. "You've got 3 minutes." She hesitated, then said, "You've made your point. You're smart, methodical. You planned this. But it's gone far enough." "Far enough?" I repeated. "You slept with my husband, showed up at my house, smiled in my face, and now you want to define boundaries." She swallowed. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "Of course not," I said. "It just slipped, right?" "Nora, listen," she said, her voice trembling just slightly. "I've already lost my job. My firm's reputation is damaged. HR might investigate harassment claims. I'm begging you, stop feeding the gossip, please." I stepped out onto the porch, close enough for her to see how steady I was. "I didn't feed anything. I just showed people what was already there." Her voice broke. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," I said. "You already gave me everything I needed." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she glanced past me at Lucas's car in the driveway, still parked there, unmoving. "He's not okay," she said quietly. "That's not my concern." She looked at me like she was seeing a reflection she didn't want to believe in. "You're enjoying this?" "No," I said softly. "I'm remembering." "Remembering what?" "How it feels to stop apologizing for other people's messes." I stepped closer, my voice low. "And just so you understand, I'm not the type who forgives quietly. I like reminders, keeps people honest." Her expression hardened. "You're cruel." "No," I said. "I'm thorough." She turned and walked back to her car, her heels splashing in a puddle. When she pulled away, her tires screeched slightly, an uncharacteristic loss of control. I watched her go, then went back inside, closed the door, and let out a slow breath. It was almost over. Almost. That evening, Lucas came home for what I knew would be the last time. He didn't knock, just walked in like he still lived here, though his duffel bag suggested he already knew better. "You met with her," he said flatly. "Word travels fast." "She told me," he said. "You wanted to scare her." "Did it work?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he dropped the duffel at the door. "I'm leaving. I'll sign whatever papers you send. You've won." I nodded. "I know." He looked around the house. The kitchen, the photos still on the wall. The living room that had once hosted dinner parties and now felt like neutral territory. "You always were the smarter one," he said quietly. "Too bad you realized that late," I said. He walked toward the door, then paused. "You got what you wanted, Nora. Revenge. Congratulations. But someday you'll look around and realize there's nothing left but the ashes." I smiled. "I don't need ashes, Lucas. I kept the house." He didn't respond. He just opened the door and left. Through the window, I watched him cross the lawn, get into his car, and drive off down the street lined with perfect trees. That should have been the ending. But life doesn't give you clean credits. It gives you aftermath. 10 minutes later, I heard a crash outside. Not metal, not destruction, just sharp enough to pull me to the window. A sprinkler had burst, water shooting high into the air, soaking Lucas's car as he turned the corner too fast. For a moment, it looked like the street itself was washing him away. I laughed. It wasn't malicious. It was release. The world had handled the punctuation for me. That night, Maple Glen was quiet. Too quiet. I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, the cicadas humming in the distance. A few cars passed, a few porch lights flicked off, and from somewhere down the block, I could hear Alice talking on her phone, whispering just loud enough for the next neighbor to hear. I smiled. Let them talk, let them dissect every detail of what Nora did. Tomorrow they'd move on to someone else. They always do. But they'd remember me. The nurse with the perfect smile who smiled back while setting her world on fire, one polite conversation at a time. I took another sip of tea and looked out at the street. The calm before morning, the stillness before the next storm. The balance had shifted. The story was over, and for once I didn't need an afterward. Just silence, perfect, earned, and utterly my own.